We later found that the Bugatti, it was impossible to buy parts directly from them.
On that chassis number of vehicle, they will not supply any component.
He's then gone to Bugatti and gone, I need to get this part, this part, this part. Porsche side or Bugatti side have said, absolutely no chance. We can't give you the part.
There are only 60 of these in the world. 59 now, and one British mechanic with a YouTube channel and absolutely zero fear just decided he's going to fix it himself. What happened next is the most insane collision between a car guy and a car company you will ever see. Because this isn't just about a wrecked Bugatti. This is about who really owns a car once it leaves a factory. And it turns out, Bugatti has a very different answer to that question than you might think. Let's start from the beginning, because the backstory on this car is almost as wild as the rebuild itself. This is a 2021 Bugatti Chiron Per Sport, one of only 60 ever produced. Base price? Around $3.6 million. But by the time you add taxes, shipping, and the kind of spec sheet Miami content creator puts together, you're somewhere in the neighborhood of $6 million. The owner is Alex Gonzalez, also known online as Zalexshit. Alex is the kind of guy who does squats on the rear carbon wing of his Bugatti for a YouTube video. And yes, that's exactly as bad for a Bugatti as it sounds. He actually cracked the rear wing doing that. But that somehow was not the worst thing that happened to this car. The worst thing happened when Alex drove the nose of the $6 million hypercar directly into the back of a tiny Japanese K-truck. A K-truck, those little microvans that look like a toaster on wheels, worth maybe $4,000. Hit by a Bugatti worth $6 million. The damage was catastrophic. The front end was obliterated, cracked carbon fiber everywhere, deployed airbags, destroyed headlights, a twisted frame, and underneath it all, a gearbox and carbon monocoque that had absorbed the full force of the impact. A Bugatti technician flew in from France, to assess it. His verdict was quick and brutal. Total loss. The car was given a salvage title and sent to Copart auction, the automotive equivalent of a graveyard. And that's normally where the story ends. But Bugatti did one more thing before walking away. Something quiet. Something that most people didn't even notice at the time. They locked the VIN. Now, if you don't know what a VIN lock is, let me explain, because this is where everything gets interesting. Every car has a vehicle identification number, a unique code that ties a car to its history, its parts, its entire identity. When Bugatti locked this VIN, they essentially sent a message to every single authorized dealer on the planet. Do not sell parts for this car. Not a headlight. Not a fuse, not a bolt, nothing. It's the automotive equivalent of being blacklisted, ghosted, excommunicated. In one quiet corporate decision, Bugatti had ensured that this car, already written off, could never be resurrected through official channels. The only path back to life? Ship it to Bugatti's factory in Moutier, France. Hand it over completely, and pay roughly the same price as buying a brand new Chiron. We're talking close to $1.7 million in parts alone, not even counting labor. Alex said no, obviously. And that's when Matt Armstrong got the call. Matt Armstrong is a 28-year-old from Northamptonshire, England, who has built one of the most impressive and most watched automotive YouTube channels in the world. His thing is simple. He finds wrecked exotic cars that everyone else has given up on, and he brings them back to life. Lamborghinis, McLarens, Rolls Royces. He's done them all. But he had never taken on anything like this. He flew to Miami. He showed up at the workshop. He looked at the wreck. And instead of turning around, he smiled. What followed was months of the most public, most dramatic standoff between a YouTuber and a car manufacturer in history. Matt and his team got to work. With no official parts available, they had to get creative. Really creative. Custom radiators were fabricated from scratch. Airbags were sourced from an Audi A3. Yes, really, Audi A3 airbags. In a $6 million Bugatti. That detail alone tells you everything about how improvised and how remarkable this rebuild truly was. The interior was painstakingly disassembled and rebuilt. Coolant systems, fuel systems, the ECU, all of it had to be reconnected. Coaxed back to life like a patient coming out of a coma. And then Matt dropped the nuclear option. He said, publicly on camera, to his millions of subscribers, that if Bugatti wouldn't sell him parts, He would simply 3D print them. Now, was he completely serious? Maybe not entirely, but it was the perfect provocation. Because Bugatti, a brand so precious about their reputation that their CEO personally flew technicians to Miami to assess a crash, could not let that slide. Within days, Mate Rimac himself responded. Mate Rimac is not your typical car company CEO. He's a self-made genius who built his own EV supercar company from a garage in Croatia and eventually ended up running Bugatti. He's sharp, he's direct, and he is very protective of the brand he spent his life working toward. So when a YouTube mechanic, however talented, started broadcasting to millions of people that you could 3D print Bugatti parts from home, Rimac had had enough. He posted a response video to Instagram, and it was measured precise and absolutely devastating. First, he addressed the part costs. Matt's videos had suggested astronomical prices for individual Bugatti components, figures that made viewers gasp and share and comment. Rimac went through the actual numbers line by line, calling them inflated and inaccurate. He argued that the real costs, while expensive, were nowhere near what was being claimed online. Then he addressed the 3D printing idea. Politely but firmly, he explained why a Bugatti Chiron is not a car you can rebuild with a desktop printer and determination. The gearbox housing had shattered. The carbon monocoque, the structural spine of the entire car, had taken a direct hit. These are not parts you can eyeball and approximate. These are components engineered to keep a driver alive at 261 miles per hour. And then Rimac delivered a line that cut through everything. There's been a lot of talk about Bugatti service, repair, and maintenance costs online, and most of what you hear is simply not true. He also made a formal offer. Send the car to Motium. Bugatti will fix it properly. The door is open, and here's where we need to zoom out, because there's something much bigger happening underneath all of this. Matt Armstrong responded to Rimac's video. He wasn't aggressive, wasn't dismissive, but he said something that exposed the real fault line running through this entire controversy. He said Alex, the owner, was scared, not of the repair cost, not of the complexity. He was scared that the moment that car landed in France, it would never come back. Think about that. The owner of a $6 million hypercar doesn't trust a manufacturer to return his own property. That's not just a personal fear. That's an indictment of the entire relationship between ultra-luxury car companies and their customers. Because here's what the VIN-lock actually represents, stripped of all the corporate language about safety and quality assurance. Bugatti believes it has the right to decide what happens to a car after it's been sold. Not the owner, not the insurance company, not a talented independent mechanic with a million-view audience. Bugatti decided this car should cease to exist as a drivable vehicle. And they use their control over the parts supply chain to make that decision stick. Now, is that about safety? Partially, yes. Mate Rimac made legitimate points. A Chiron rebuilt with improvised parts and 3D printed components, traveling at the speeds a Chiron is capable of, is a potential catastrophe. That argument has real merit. But is it also about control? About brand image? About preventing the world from seeing a Bugatti rebuilt with Audi A3 airbags and custom-made radiators? Absolutely. And Matt Armstrong, whether he fully intended to or not, pulled back the curtain on all of it. Despite everything, despite the VIN-lock, the CEO's response, the missing official parts, and the sheer absurdity of the entire situation, Matt Armstrong got that Bugatti running. The interior was rebuilt. The airbags were replaced. The radiators were custom fabricated. The coolant, fuel, and ECU systems were reconnected. And then, against all rational expectations, that 16-cylinder, quad-turbocharged, 1,500 horsepower engine fired up for the first time. That moment, a car that the manufacturer declared dead, with a locked VIN and zero official support, roaring back to life in a private workshop, is one of the most remarkable things to happen in the car world in years. But the story isn't over. There's still work left to do. The controversy hasn't disappeared, and Bugatti hasn't changed its position. Matt Armstrong himself, in a candid podcast interview, compares relationship with Mate Rimac to a Messi versus Ronaldo rivalry. Two people who actually respect each other and share a love of extraordinary cars, but caught in a clash between the independent spirit and the corporate machine. We both like cars, supercars, hypercars, Armstrong said. We've got mutual friends.